Everybody, it's Kim. Today I'm going to show you how I've been preserving eggs for the upcoming winter months when my chickens don't lay so much. In this jar here, I preserved these back in May. And you can see they look pretty good. I check them at least once a week. I look for any eggs that are cracked or any eggs that broke in the jar. And so far they are doing fine. This one I did in the beginning of June. I probably could have fit a couple more in here, but you want to make sure that the water is always over top of your eggs. And at the time, it looked like it was full enough. Now, this was a sun tea jar. This was just some jar I had. Don't use anything that you're really fond of because it will, as you can see here, it etches the glass because we're using a lime solution, okay? So you can see the eggs are in there, and yes, the lime does go down to the bottom. That's perfectly normal. It should be relatively clear. As you could see, the water has no large amounts of cloudiness. I could see the eggs fine. These are newer, probably hasn't settled out as much, but the eggs are looking fine, okay? Now let me show you what kind of eggs you need. It has to be pretty specific in order to be able to do this without them going bad. Let me start talking about the eggs. The eggs must be fresh, within 1 to 3 days old. They cannot be washed, and they cannot be refrigerated, and they must be clean. So here's one I just brought in the house. It still has, you could see, a lot of the bloom on it. There is a little spot there I'm not worried about, but relatively it's very clean and it's very fresh. This is what you need. So you have to have somebody who can get you fresh, unwashed, unrefrigerated, clean eggs, okay? You cannot use them if they've been refrigerated. You cannot use them if somebody's washed that natural bloom off. And they, so you want to make sure if you need to buy them from somebody like myself, that you tell them specifically that you're going to store these in, some people call it water glassing. True water glassing used sodium silicate, which we really don't use much anymore. The new way that we use is we use pickling lime. Okay, this is Mrs. Wage's pickling lime. You can buy it in a canning section. It's calcium hydroxide. Some people will use the commercial brand that you can buy in the 50-pound bags, but Mrs. Wage's is easy enough to find, especially in the late summer, early autumn of the year. So it's more refined, and it's made for human consumption. So, and then you need some kind of a container. Now this one happens to be a peanut butter jar. I would very, very much prefer glass. The only other glass I have is my half-gallon canning jars, and they're full with rice and things like that. If you use something like, because I'm going to use something like this, I keep looking for the large jars or containers at the thrift store and places like that. I can move this over if I'm concerned, or this would be in the front of my rotation all the time, so I would make sure that the lime's not eating through the plastic. I haven't had that issue before, but it's always a concern if it's not a heavy-duty plastic container. Okay, so let me show you the basic process on this and get my dog to stop barking at me. Okay, on my scale, I measured out 4 cups of water. Now, this is where things get a little funny, in my opinion. Some people say to use, 4 or 6 tablespoons of pickling lime. To be really safe, you must use 1 ounce per quart of water, or 4 cups of water. So I actually put my water on my scale. I tared it out. It says 0 ounces. And now I'm going to add my pickling lime to my water, obviously, until it hits 1 ounce. Now, I've seen people say 3 tablespoons. I've seen people say 4 tablespoons. So I really prefer, now there's 3, and that's 7/8 of an ounce. There's another half a tablespoon about. Now I have 1 ounce. So really, in this case, it took 3.5 ounces. 3.5 tablespoons. Because it really depends on how fluffy your lime is. If it's all packed down, it's going to weigh more. I tend to shake mine, and it was down to there. Now look I just made it. It was down to there, and I just made it up to there by shaking it. So I loosened it up. Now, if it was packed tight, it's going to be heavier. If it's loosened up, it's going to be lighter. So err on the side. If you have a scale, please, please weigh out your lime and measure out your water. If you do not, err on the side of adding too much lime. It's just going to settle out in the bottom. Okay, so I have my lime water. It's going to be cloudy, and it will stay cloudy for a while. And I'm going to mix it up really well because I want it suspended in the solution when I pour it into the container. So I have the bottom of this in there. I'm going to take my eggs. I'm just going to very carefully set them down in my solution. I've seen some people say stand them on end. I don't care what you do. It doesn't work. I've tried it. Okay. I'm going to place my eggs carefully. I try not to overpack them because, you know, the last thing I want to do is have one crack in there. And if it does, it's not the end of the world, you guys. You can take out any eggs that are cracked. You will have to make a new solution. Now, see, these I could put on point, sort of. You would have to make a new solution and pour it over, but it's not going to ruin the rest of your eggs, okay? Now, I can add to this for a couple of days. I'm going to fill up the rest of my jar. It has to go over the top of your eggs. All right. I have one that's peeking up there a little bit. I will be adding a couple more eggs, so if I need to make another solution, I will. But for right now, I'm just going to make sure that everybody's under the surface of the water. That guy really wants to be up at the top here, so. All right. Like I said, these the lime will settle out, so you'll be able to see in there better. By the time I add 2 or 3 or 4 more eggs tomorrow, this will probably be full. If not, I'm going to mix up probably a half, like 2 cups of water to 1/2 ounce of lime to top this off. I may go ahead and do that tonight just so I don't have to do it tomorrow and bring everything back out. But I wanted you to see this process. So we'll come back in a little bit once this settles down, and I'll show you what it looks like then. I let this settle out a little bit. It's going to stay cloudy probably at least till tomorrow, and it'll eventually settle out so that you could see your eggs a lot better. The most important thing is I had that one egg that was peeking out, so I mixed up 2 more cups of, and I do use filtered water, by the way. You could use distilled water. Your city water might be okay. Well water, I don't trust mine. So I use filtered water, and I put in 2 cups with a 1/2 ounce of lime, mixed it up, and then I poured it on top to top this off. Now I can add eggs to this for another couple of days, and it'll be fine as long as they are completely covered with the water solution. Okay? Now the other thing I want you to be aware, now I will keep this on my counter for about a week, because generally if your eggs are going to crack, they're going to do it within that time. And once this settles out, I can look for any cracked eggs. If I have to redo it, I redo it. It's not a big deal. And then, like I said, I like to kind of peek at them. Basically, I'm looking to see if the water is still clear or not, to make sure that nobody broke later in storage. I do store them in the coolest place I have, which is in a closet in my kitchen. It does get up to 70. You know, it's nothing I can do about that. And once they are ready to be stored away after the first week or 2, they're in my cabinet, so it's dark. Okay? So this will be on my counter for about a week or so. Now, don't be afraid if you see something like this on the top of your water. Okay? That is just some of the lime that has crystallized, and it's floating. And you may see pieces of it floating throughout your eggs. You may not see it. I know I saw some earlier. I think it settled down to the bottom, but like through here, there was a piece that kind of floated down. You may see, once the solution settles down, you may see some on top of your eggs. That's okay. And you will see quite a bit at the bottom. If your water needs it, it will absorb more of that calcium. That calcium goes into the pores on your eggs, and that's what's preserving them, so that no air can get in and out of that egg. And that's why we want really fresh eggs. We don't want to use old eggs that already have, you know, some loss of quality. All right. So if you guys have any comments or questions, please leave them below. Remember, the freshest eggs you can get, unwashed, unrefrigerated. And I will, in a pinned comment as well as in the description box, I will make sure I list all of that plus the amounts you need for your solution. Okay. So comments or questions, let me know. And you guys have a wonderful night.